Welcome to Spiritual Ambition, where we tune in to awaken our divine nature and explore the provocative inner force compelling us toward our fullest potential. If you've achieved external success but feel a deeper calling, if you're tired of dimming your light to fit in, and you know there's a more powerful way to live and lead and love, you're in the right place. Host Donna Bond is a best-selling author, modern-day high priestess, and catalyst for personal transformation. Together, we're birthing a new paradigm of loving leadership, integrating our humanity with divine wisdom as our individual awakening serves collective evolution. Here's your host of Spiritual Ambition, Donna Bond.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's so good to have you here. Today, we're going to talk about soul liberation. And you're going to have an invitation to set your soul free, because that's what we all need. That's what the world needs, is more soul, more magnetism, more aliveness, all the yummy stuff that comes directly from inside of us. But before we begin, and before we get into that, I just want to let you know, if you're struggling in your life right now, if you're experiencing great deals of discontent, if you feel exhausted, if you feel overwhelmed by the world and everything that's happening in it, this is the episode for you, because I'm going to share my own personal story about what happened to me and the divine unfolding of my own soul liberation that really got me set on a completely different trajectory in my life, a completely different trajectory than what my upbringing had me on, what my belief systems had me on, and the trajectory that I was physically on, and sort of what was that pivot point and what happened to me, what was the divine orchestration and the magical synchronicities and the really powerful soul message that I received that put me on a completely different path. That is what we're going to talk about today. And you don't realize it, but what I have done over the last several episodes is I have slowly unfolded for you the different pieces of my healing modality, which is called higher human integration. And higher human integration is about recalibrating our perceptions. And in my masterclass, which is called Empower the Authentic You, I literally outline for you the steps that you can take to transform your consciousness. So what I've done over the last several episodes is, first we talked about mindset, then we talked about heart set, then the last episode we talked about skill sets. And I would love if anybody wants to put in the chat if you practiced any big acknowledgement or big listening, or if you downloaded our soul trip and you had any sort of an experience with that, just drop your name in the chat and say hello, because we would love to recognize you. And I just want to acknowledge you because, as I mentioned last episode, there's information and there's transformation. And we all take in a lot of information, but unless we are willing to sort of get our hands dirty, unless we're willing to take action, to do the work, to take the steps, to make the walk, we can't give life the opportunity to give us feedback. And I don't know about you, but when I really learn something, like I really embody something, the only way that that is possible for me is through some sort of an experience. And when we take action with life, then we're in that experiential understanding of what's happening. And as I think I mentioned early on in Spiritual Ambition, my intention for this show is where we can tune in to experience our divine nature. And because spiritual ambition is really about that inner quest to experience our divine nature. All of the activities that I'm sharing with you, all of the soul trips, the teachings, the intentions, the practices, the processes, and the rituals. I don't know, that was a little out of order, but you know what I mean? All of it is designed to get you into action, to give you an experience of something new and different, to give you an experience of the different levels of multidimensionality that exist within your consciousness, within the sphere of your understanding, to get you out of the trap of your mind. Because we all fall into the trap of our mind, and then we buy into this total misunderstanding that our mind is in charge of our life. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there and their minds are in charge of their life. And I am sending them a blessing of light in this moment because they're missing out. They're missing out on the aliveness. They're missing out on connecting with their heart, to other people that their heart loves. They're missing out on receiving divine intelligence through their physical body. They're missing out on having an energetic experience, which can really bring waves of deliciousness into your physicality in a way that no one can really describe it to you. I mean, I can talk about it until the cows come home, but that doesn't mean anything to you. And my highest intention is that you have an experience of your own divinity, your own magnetism, your own higher self. Because when you do, you're going to make room in your life for this part of your consciousness to participate in who you are, what you're doing here, your unique destiny and path that you're on, instead of letting our ego mind and our conditioned, learned self run the show according to safety, security, comfort, and control. Okay, so mindset, heart set, skill set. Today, we're going to talk about what I call the soul set. And that's just my fancy word to talk about the soul. And what we're all really here doing in this earthly experience is recognizing that we are both fully human and fully divine, and that we have this positive, purposeful force that is inside of us that wants to participate in our life. And I'm going to talk all about that. But before we do that, we are going to talk about the sacred circle of light. And this is really one of our most sacred practices that we do together every episode. And our sacred circle of light is where our community comes together intentionally right here, right now. And we send our highest intentions of love and light to people who might need a little bit of upliftment, people who are struggling, who are having health challenges, who might be facing difficult situations. And hey, listen, it's everybody, right? Like, we look around and there are so many people in struggle and there are so many people in pain. And we always want to do something because so many of us, I know if you're watching this show, you have higher intentions for yourself and the world. You have a heart that is leading you through your life, and you want to help people and uplift people. And this is a way that we do that together. prayer is a mystical and magical phenomenon. And there are so many incredible stories of people who have received prayers or who have been prayed for, who are getting the transmission. They're receiving the transmission. And this is what we do with our spiritual ambition sacred light circle. So in this moment, we are collectively sending love and light to Danielle, Hannah, Christy, Robin, Natasha, Brianna, Isamar, Aaron, Yuri, and his entire kitchen staff. We're also going to send a blessing of light and loving up ahead to connect to your essential nature, which is my Costa Rica Women's Retreat, which kicks off. And we're just going to send that light up ahead for that event. And my intentions that everybody there has an experience of their divinity. So if you would like to submit the name of somebody that you love and care about so that we can include them in our sacred circle of light, you can just visit spiritualambitionsacredlight.com, and Kelly's going to drop that in the chat and put that across the screen for us. Again, it's spiritualambitionsacredlight.com, and we'll get the names of your loved ones, and in our next episode, we'll send the light up to them once and again. All right. Well, let's talk about the soul. How can we even talk about something that seems so nebulous, so out there, so mystical, something that, some logical, analytical people might say there's no way that we can even prove that the soul exists? I know that the soul exists because I have had the unique privilege of having an experience of my soul. And, there's something, as I've sort of thought about this and the way that our soul communicates with us and through us, I've sort of identified what I call a soul surge. And I'm going to give you an actual definition of this because as I continue to build out my brand and as spiritual ambition catches more fire, I'm intentionally educating anybody who's watching this show and having some concrete definitions around things supports me, it supports you, and then we all know what we're talking about. So I'm going to share with you a story today about myself, which was a deeply personal story where I did have an experience of my soul that was really abrupt, and it was undeniable, and it was a little bit of a kick in the ass, to be honest. But a soul surge, I'm going to read the definition to you. This is an unyielding inner call resulting in an illogical outer act that evokes a rush of inner freedom as an authentic expression of your true self. It's a sign of pure soul liberation. And what I think the world needs right now is a whole lot of soul liberation, because our soul, the essence of our soul, the fabric of our soul is made of an energy that is a higher dimension of our consciousness, a higher level of our consciousness, if you want to think about it that way. And it translates into this natural authenticity, this natural loving. When I think about the soul and all of the different qualities that emanate as a natural derivative of what the soul is, the energy of the soul, you have all of these qualities that we're typically out looking for in the physical world by chasing our achievements and our accomplishments, or a relationship. You know, we're chasing relationships because we think that's how we're going to get love. Or we chase our successes because of that feeling of confidence, that feeling of inner esteem, I call it. Those feelings of upliftment, those feelings of aliveness, vitality, light, peace, joy, aliveness, magnetism, right? We all want more magnetism. And when you meet people who have that natural magnetism, that is an illustration of a liberated soul. That individual is embodying more of their soul. And that's literally how I think about it. And it's almost as if, and I'm going to actually talk about this in our next episode, in episode 6, I'm going to take you through some technology where we're going to talk about very specific traps that cover up the soul. And it doesn't really happen that way, but those are the best words that I can use to articulate this to you in a way where you can begin to sort of make sense of it. Because our programming and our conditioning and our ego-minded learned self covers up the naturalness of our authentic expression. You know, because we get self-conscious about things, or we buy into the misbelief that in order to belong, I have to act like this, or in order to be loved, I have to perform this act, or in order to be recognized, I have to achieve this thing, right? Those are all programmed conditions that, when we're operating under those constraints, what we're doing is we're really snuffing out our aliveness and our true soul essence. So what's a soul surge? Well, I gave you my fancy definition, right? An unyielding inner call resulting in an illogical outer act that evokes a rush of inner freedom as an authentic expression of your true self. And this is a sign of pure soul liberation. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and I'm going to tell you a big, long story. So my assistant, the wonderful gal who supports my retreats, and she supports so many of the initiatives at Consciousness Rising, my company, her name is Erin. And she was telling me a story just yesterday about how she signed herself up to run a half marathon. I'm not a runner, so I had to check with her on all the facts about this. A half marathon is 13 and a half miles. She signed herself up to run a half marathon when at the time she was only able to run less than a mile. And there was something in her that called her into action to be able to do this. Well, this was 9 years ago. And today, Erin has run over 45 races, some of which are 50Ks. Who does that? Who does a 50K? I can't even get my head around that. And she does these Ironmans. And I mean, she's into it, right? But that very first initial sign up, that was a soul surge. Rihanna had a soul surge. So Rihanna has the most beautiful hair you have ever seen. It is that thick, shiny, lustrous, gorgeous, full, beautiful, enviable hair that every single woman wants. And Rihanna had a soul surge and she cut her hair. And it was long and it's beautiful. And she had this inner call that was really prompting this outer expression. And now she has this really short, super cute pixie situation, and all of her natural curls kind of do their own thing. That's a soul surge. So I'm going to share with you a story today about a big soul surge that I had that literally changed the trajectory of my life. And I wanted to share these examples with you about Aaron and Rihanna because the story I'm going to tell you is long and elaborate. And my point is the story doesn't have to be long and elaborate. And you'll know when you have a soul surge. A soul surge is not something that you can plan. It's not something that you can make happen. This is literally your soul coming forward and getting your attention. So I was 45 years old. I have an apple here because it's pretty significant in my apple story that I'm going to tell you. I was 45 years old and I was the director of marketing at the Ritz-Carlton Laguna Niguel. And I was really unhappy. And on the surface, it all looked great. I had everything. I had notoriety and success. I was earning a, multiple six-figure salary with stock options and bonus potential and cool vacation time. I worked alongside best-in-class people. On the surface, I had it all. I was winning awards. I had a great reputation. Success was following me through that journey. But I had this deep, deep, deep inner void inside of me. And what I also had was a frozen shoulder. And this frozen shoulder was a really big source of pain, of frustration, of discontent, because I wasn't happy that I had this frozen shoulder. I was kind of pissed off about it, and it was really getting in my way. And it was constantly throbbing and painful. And I had already enrolled myself in a master's program in spiritual psychology, but I was still working at the Ritz-Carlton. And it was just about a year into my master's degree. And the night before I left to go on this on a conference, I was reading a book called E Squared by Pam Gout that had 9 do-it-yourself experiments to prove that your thoughts create your reality. So I was reading this book in pain in my bed the night before I had to go on this conference. And very randomly, I asked the universe to bring me an apple. And I don't really love apples. At the time, they meant nothing to me. But this was my ask of the universe. And this was like a little test that was offered as an experiment in this book. I said, universe, bring me an apple. The next day, I got on an airplane and I took with me one of my books that I had to read for my master's program called Finding Your Element by Ken Robinson. And I was so excited about reading this book because I was looking for my element. I was 45. I had been looking for my element for as long as I could remember, wanting to find my purpose. And, the way that I would say that to you today is very, very different, because my purpose is not to be a television show host. My purpose is not to be a spiritual coach. My purpose is not a job or a role or a title or even anything that I'm here to do. The way that I think about purpose is I feel on purpose in everything that I do. And maybe that's a whole other episode to be able to really break that down and talk about it. But the point that I want to make is I was really excited about this book because I thought that it would help me find my purpose. And I guess in a way it kind of did. I've never really sort of put that together until this very moment. So anyways, here I am. I'm on an airplane. There are other coworkers also on this airplane. And we're all like in our own seats. And I'm curled up in a window seat, 13C or whatever it was. And I'm on the last few pages of this book. And my shoulder is throbbing in pain. And I'm on my way to this conference where I'm going to drink too much. I'm definitely not going to get the sleep that I need to get. I will overextend myself because I will be feeling like I have to be on for the entire conference. And that will just be depleting, which is further complicating this health challenge that I have. Not to mention that I'm like deeply discontented. But when I got on this airplane, nobody knew that. Nobody knew how deeply discontented I was, maybe even including me. So I'm reading the book and I'm on like literally the last few pages. And all of a sudden Robinson, the author, is talking about how most of us, we play it safe. And he uses Mark Twain's quote to sort of illustrate his point. And the quote is, 20 years from now, you are going to be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the things you did do. So throw off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbor, explore, dream, discover. Oh, I read that quote and all of a sudden I can feel this inner confrontation inside of myself as I'm going over in my mind all the ways that I play it safe. All of the time that I do what I'm told. I follow the rules. I stay in line. I squelch my voice. So I keep reading. And then I come across the next quote, which is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And it says, what lies behind you and what lie before you are tiny matters compared to what lie within you. And now I'm like, what lies within me? What lies within me that I have been suppressing, that I have been pushing down, that I have been holding back, that I have been controlling within myself? What lies within me that is dying to get out? And I do mean dying to get out. And then I get to the clincher. One more quote by Elizabeth Appel. And then the day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. There are no words that can really explain exactly what happened to me in that moment. But my frozen shoulder was that bud. And my crown chakra opened. I literally felt like I was being given divine guidance. And in that moment, my soul surge came through me with such crystal and profound clarity that I suddenly knew I had to quit my job. it didn't matter that I didn't have a plan or a clue. I didn't know how I would take care of my financial responsibilities. It didn't matter that I had no idea what I would venture into after making such a decision, but I had absolute crystal clarity inside of me that was undeniable. And it came through me with a profundity that was magnificent. And in that moment, I cried with so much shame that I had been hiding myself for so long, pushing down, squelching the authentic expression that wanted so badly to be set free, to let go. And I just curled myself up because I'm little. So there I was in my plane seat, all curled up, sobbing, absolutely sobbing, but knowing what I had to do, knowing that I couldn't go another minute pretending to keep doing something in my life that was killing me, that was draining my life force, that was extinguishing my fire, that I was trying to suppress my soul. My astrologer said to me the other day that I am not in charge of my own ascension. And I loved hearing that because Spirit's got your back. And I know we always want to make these things happen, and we can't, and we won't. And I just want you to trust in this moment that when you're ready, it will come through you too. I have no doubt you can't make a wrong move or take a wrong turn. Your life is unfolding with beauty and synchronicity and orchestration. I promise. I absolutely promise you. So I get off the airplane and I go to this conference, and I am now looking through a very different lens than how I would normally be behaving in a conference like this. Normally, I would be the first person to the breakout room, sitting in the front row, copiously taking notes so that I could implement all of my strategies when I got back to my hotel. None of that is happening. I sort of sat back and I sort of marveled, actually, that I had had such great achievement in my life for a middle-class ladder climber. I don't come from money. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I grew up believing I wasn't very smart. And so that's why I went into hospitality. Ooh, I didn't mean for that to sound terrible to anybody who's in hospitality. I was in this conference just sort of taking stock in what I had accomplished in the physical world, in the material world. And I had a great deal of pride, actually, around how far I had come. So it's the very last night of this conference. And in typical Ritz-Carlton style, I'm at this beautiful, elegant dinner party, and it's an awards banquet. And my name is called to the stage, where I am the recipient of the Western Regional Marketing Achievement Award for the third consecutive year in a row. And I'm clutching this award, and I'm walking back to my table, and I'm feeling even more confident around what happened on that plane, where I had this profound clarity and knowing that it was time for me to get off the stage of hospitality. I didn't know I was getting on any other stage at the time, because really none of this was in my awareness at that time. But I knew it was time for me to move on. And even though I had no idea what I would go on to do, I sat back down at my dinner table where they had just served dessert. And, I would have missed it if it weren't for the menu card, because sitting before me was the most beautiful, the most gorgeous, the most elaborate apple dessert. And on the menu card, it talks about apple composition and almond clafoutis and apple confit and green apple sorbet and apple and apple and apple. And I wept in marvel, in wonder, in awe of the universe and how the universe was winking at me. We actually have the dessert because I had to take a picture of it. This was 9 years ago now, but I'm going to ask Kelly to show us. Here is this elaborate apple dessert. And this goes under a category of stories in my life. My girlfriends and I joke to each other. We say, you can't make this shit up. You can't make it up. I actually went on to have an even crazier apple story in the future, but I'll tell you that story on another day. So there's my apple dessert. Thank you, Kelly. In that moment, I had a knowing that we are all so connected. We are so guided. We are so loved. In that moment, when I received that apple dessert, that was the universe winking at me. That was the universe not saying, oh, congratulations that you won another marketing award. That was the universe saying, thank God you got the message that we sent to you on the plane. And here is our loving encouragement to take action. This is the thing with the soul. She is speaking to you every minute of every day. She is. Every minute of every day, she is speaking to you. Or he. The essence. I actually don't think that our soul has gender identity, but I'm not going to go down that path. Here's the rub. Here's, and this is what spiritual ambition is about. My theory is that when we're willing to take action on these profound messages that we receive from our soul, those messages always come with complication, right? Like, oh, leave your multiple six-figure job. Just walk away from it. Like, okay, what? That's insane. It's insanity. The messages that we receive from our soul are always illogical. They're always scary because our soul is always inviting us to grow. Our soul wants us to be a bigger, freer, fuller, more expanded expression of who we came here to be. And so we have to keep coloring outside the lines. We have to keep expanding with our soul's level of expansion. When we do that, it will always require us to do something that we've never done before. It will always require us to get out of our comfort zone. And this is where the difficulty comes in. Now, it would have been really easy for me to have walked away from that whole situation and then to have talked myself out of it, to have said, oh, I was nuts. You know what I mean? Like whatever happened to me on the plane, that wasn't really real. I didn't feel good because I had this frozen shoulder. I was tired. My defenses were down. I could have talked myself out of it. Couldn't I have? Have you ever done that? Where and I'm not just talking about like a little nudge of intuition. I'm talking about a soul surge where you are given direct orders from your higher self. Like you're given a directive from your higher self and then you don't follow it. Oh my God. Listen, we've all done it. I've done it. We've all done it. Let's stop doing it. I'm going to quote Richard Rudd, who is the luminary and one of the greatest spiritual minds on the planet at this time, in my humble opinion. Richard Rudd is the creator and the transmitter of the living wisdom that we know as the Gene Keys, Genekeys. And I'm not going to go into what the Gene Keys are right now, but I want to give you this quote because when I read this quote, it sort of stopped me in my tracks because it was such truth. And I've made a lot of leaps in my life that seemed really crazy. I mean, I met my husband on the internet and he proposed to me 30 days after we met. And I said yes. He didn't have a ring or a plan or a clue. Like that was another soul surge. We've been married for 17 years, by the way, to just sort of end cap that. When I read this quote, my soul said yes. So here's the quote. The more we begin to trust the unknown, the more our life resolves itself effortlessly and beautifully. And a natural, a natural process of deconditioning begins to take place inside you. The more we begin to trust the unknown, the more our life resolves itself effortlessly and beautifully. And a natural process of deconditioning begins to take place inside you. Ah, such poetry. It's such wisdom. It's such truth. We have to get out of our logical minds and we have to stop playing the game that was designed by someone else. And it's time to start playing your own game and making your own rules, following your own rhythm on your own timeline. And the more you do that, the more everything you want is going to fall into place. And I know that that feels like a really tall order and a really bold statement that I'm making, and I recognize that I'm making it. And I'm not saying like, oh, once you get on these spiritual paths, like nothing bad happens to you. I'm not saying that, because everything in our life is an invitation for our growth and our expansion. And everything in our life is leading us to a greater level of soul embodiment. That is what life is actually all about. We are here to learn lessons that are ultimately giving us more authentic power of our true self. The authentic power of our true self is the magnetism of our soul. It is the magnetism of this powerful energy that moves through me and moves through you and moves through every single solitary living person on this planet and everything living. Everything living has this essence. This is my soul trip today. We're not talking about the trip, we're talking about the soul. Even in this moment, you can feel it. I just want you to tune in and feel the fabric of your essence, the power of your inner essence. All right. I hope you enjoyed my story. There's a couple of other things that I want to share with you today. We have the celebration of Love's Alchemy, which is a regular segment that we do every episode on spiritual ambition. And the celebration of Love's Alchemy is a gentle pause to recognize the extraordinary magic that is woven through our everyday lives. And every episode, we take a moment of loving celebration for something that might seem ordinary or contrary. Actually, today, we're going to look at something that actually is magical and something that I hope each of you has the opportunity to experience between now and the next episode of Spiritual Ambition. But this idea was born to me through the sweetness of a juicy orange. I was eating this orange and the juice was dripping all over my face, and I had to stand over the sink, and I was eating it, and I was thinking, my God, this piece of fruit is so succulent and delicious, and the smell of the orange was going up. This fragrance was waking me into aliveness. And I thought about how many times we overlook the magical things that happen in our life. I just shared with you a magical thing that happened in my life. And I know that you have magical things that are happening in your life all of the time. So this week, the celebration of Love's Alchemy is about awe itself. Awe, A-W-E, awe. And this week, we are bringing our love to awe, because awe is something that we can only experience here in these human bodies. So the whole point of this is to remind us to be grateful for our humanness. And these earth suits, they're so fragile and they're so delicate, and they can experience so much pain and so much discomfort. And they can also experience exaltation, bliss, pleasure, aliveness. Awe is one of those full body experiences that also is involving your heart, your mind, your sense of wisdom and sense of wonder. The definition of awe is a feeling of reverential. I can't even say it. Oh my God. I'm so embarrassed right now. Reverential respect mixed with either fear or wonder. And some examples of that are maybe standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon, right? There's a little bit of fear there because you recognize you're a small speck of nothingness as you stand in front of the vastness. But at the same time, you have that deep respect for Mother Earth, for Mother Nature, for this incredible demonstration of magnificence, and that brings us awe. Maybe sometimes witnessing a powerful thunderstorm or a night-filled sky that's bursting with the Milky Way and all sorts of different constellations can bring forward that beautiful awe. Being in the presence of a waterfall, it's interesting, all of these things involve nature. Experiencing an earthquake, that's another great example. Things that are wondrous, holding a newborn baby, music. We can definitely experience awe through listening to some incredible piece of music, right? Again, there's more than one of your senses that is involved in this. But there's also this invisible, etheric loveliness that is threaded through the situation. So I am going to invite you to take what's called a wonder walk. And this is actually something that my husband read about on National Geographic. A wonder walk is where this walk can inspire feelings of awe when we're in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding of the world. Something that transcends your current understanding of the world. Go out in nature. Slow down. Don't bring your phone. And connect. Maybe with the dirt, with the trees, with the sky, with the smells of the earth, all of it. All right. We're coming to the conclusion of our show today. Our next show will be on April 22nd, and we're going to explore higher human integration and all of the different moving parts to that beautiful healing modality. And I'm going to share with you an opportunity of how you can recalibrate your perceptions and how you can get access to the steps to raise your consciousness. I want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank you for your presence, for your light, for your heart, for your energetic signature on the planet. I want to thank you for all of the work that you've done inwardly to move away or clear any of the blocks in you that prevent you from standing forward as the loving being that you are. Oh my God, I am just realizing this is so crazy. I didn't call in the light for the show today. See, this is so interesting. I called in the light before the show, but this energy moves through me and it's like a runaway train, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I forgot to call in the light, but I'm going to still close our space. I want you to just close your eyes and we just pay homage to any soul surge that you've had or will have, knowing that there is a beautiful and divine orchestration always unfolding in your life, in my life, in everyone's lives, all of the time. And the more we pay attention to that and engage with that, the more the meaning and the fulfillment and the magic comes forward in our lives as a beautiful orchestration of who we are, unfolding in love, as love, for love, by love. Thank you for watching. I'm Donna Bond, and this is Spiritual Ambition.